Greetings everyone. I decided, since I'm going to be making 230th video and I never got the chance to celebrate my 100th or 200th, I thought I would do something special for you guys before I actually officially start the Winghead edition of Lesser Known But Awesome Heroes. And I thought that I would actually go to the only story that I've written thus far, and it is a Batman story, and it is called Batman The Art of Conquest. And keep in mind, I've had this written for, or at least written and finished for quite a while actually. It's a very old story. First story that I wrote. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. The images that you see will just be for background. It's more of an audiobook-esque type deal, so I don't want to hear in the comments how the image is popping up, like this one coming up here, how, oh, it just drags on for minutes. This is more of an audiobook, but let me get started. Drag it up here, if it'll show. Okay. There we go. Let me get started. Sorry. Batman, The Art of Conquest. I will skip the author's note. Well, actually, no, I'll just go with the author's note anyway. Okay. Batman has always been a character, no matter what medium he's in. He strikes terror into criminals, whether it be through fear, intimidation, or giving a bad pun, i.e. the old Adam West TV show, or in modern terms, the new Brave and the Bold cartoon. I remember seeing Batman Returns and reading a few of the comics, some of them from Nightfall, as a kid, and I was instantly hooked. A superhero without powers, just his wits in a belt full of random gadgets, fighting criminals that were either over the top or were villains that other heroes like Superman would fight, and actually not only outsmart but beat them despite the odds stacked against him sometimes. Whether you like the Dark Knight, the Detective, etc., Batman is a character who still to this day is as iconic as he is beloved by kids and adults alike. Batman, supporting characters, and villains are all copyright and trademarked characters of DC Comics and other affiliates. And I dedicated this story to my friends and family who, without, of course, their support, I would never find the confidence to do stuff like this, and I do sincerely mean that, author's note. Okay. Prologue. Gotham City, 24 years ago. A rich couple and their son leave a movie theater. The boy was excited after seeing the latest adventure flick. Outside, as they walked out of the theater, the rain was pouring down on the streets like a supernatural mist in a B horror movie. The man suggested a shortcut through an alleyway to get to the main street for pickup by their butler. The son and the couple held hands so as not to lose sight of each other in the rain. Halfway through, the rain had lightened up just enough, as if on cue, a pickpocket pulled a gun and tried to rob them. The man lunged, only to be gunned down by the mugger, and as the woman tried to scream in horror, she was shot down as well. The mugger then aimed the gun at the boy, his face filled with terror. But hearing the police sirens, the pickpocket only took what he could and fled, leaving the boy crying and with the blood of his parents on his hands. And it was on that night that he vowed that anyone with a black heart or lack of conscience would be brought to justice. Bruce Wayne snapped awake in a cold sweat and took a deep breath as he laid back down. He stared at the clock. 3:20 a.m. In 3 hours, Alfred would come and wake him. Alfred Pennyworth had served the Wayne family for many years. He admired Thomas Wayne, adored Martha Wayne, and above all felt that Bruce was like an adoptive son or a nephew to him. As he brought breakfast and opened the shades, he wondered when the day would come when he'd not be around to help him out. Alfred pushed those thoughts away and brought the silver platter over to Bruce and took the cover off to reveal a tasty plate of finely prepared bacon and eggs, along with a warm thermos of coffee. "I see as usual, sir, that you have had a rough night," Alfred mused. Bruce smiled at the butler's small but smug joke. Bruce didn't know how Alfred did it, but he was glad to have him around. Alfred had been like a second father to him growing up. Even when times got tough, Alfred was always there for him. Taking a sip of coffee, Bruce reads the morning paper with the headline, "Batman Stops Massive Bizarre Crime Wave." And the newspaper had a front page clipping of the Joker being hauled away by Gotham PD. After finishing his breakfast, Bruce went about his daily workout routine and training regiment. Chapter 1. Later that night, at the Gotham Banquet Hall charity event commemorating the fallen heroes of D-Day, Bruce Wayne mingled with the guests. Lieutenant Harvey Bullock chewed on his toothpick in annoyance, while Commissioner Gordon was wearing a finely pressed tux. Bullock hated parties like this. He always stood out like a sore thumb. Not that wearing a penguin suit helped him out any more. Alfred stood watch, scanning for anything or anyone unusual. He never understood the logic of Master Bruce having him keep tabs on the party guests. If anything, he sometimes thought it was a cruel but amusing joke the world's greatest detective might miss a clue. But he kept scanning and collecting champagne glasses. Bruce was in the middle of a horrendously boring interview about why he was doing this charity event when his BlackBerry went off. "Excuse me," Bruce said very cordially and politely as he went to check his BlackBerry, and saw that the Batwave pulse on the computer in the Batcave had went off. Checking to see what set it off, the signal was right outside the banquet hall. And before Bruce could react, the front doors blew open with concussive force, and everyone panicked as Black Mask and his gang of false facers entered the room. Luckily, in the confusion and panic, Bruce had slipped away unnoticed, and was furiously typing a code into his BlackBerry, and hurried towards the back door to a nearby alleyway. Meanwhile, at Wayne Manor, the code Bruce had sent booted up the Bat computer, and from there, the computer automatically routed the auto GPS unit in the Batmobile. And with a loud roar of the engines and the sound of the jet-propelled rocket igniting, the Batmobile speeded off to its destination. Meanwhile, back at the charity event, Black Mask ordered people to empty their pockets and their purses. One man refused to do so and tried to fight back, but was quickly silenced by the butt of a Tommy gun, of a fine, pristine Tommy gun. Amateur, Black Mask mused. Now let's hurry before the bat shows. Black Mask barked at his men. Just as they nearly finished, Bruce got a signal from the Batwave and went out towards the back door before the false facers checked the entire premises and spot him. In the Batmobile, Bruce changed his attire. Right as they started to leave, right as Black Mask started to leave after getting his fill of jewelry and nice little trinkets and belongings, Gotham PD had swarmed the building. Black Mask had an ace up his sleeve, though. He had a whole building full of hostages. Just to show he wasn't kidding, one of the false facers was about to execute a young man, the young man who tried to play hero a while ago. But as the gun was lowered, an ominous shadow loomed over the thug. The thug was frozen with terror. He tried to scream, but a lump was caught in his throat, as the only words that he was able to utter was, "Batman." Before the thug could even train the gun on him, Batman swooped down and kicked him right straight in the chest, knocking him to the floor. The false facers all surrounded Batman, guns trained on him. Batman stared at Black Mask with his eyes narrowing. "Nice try, Clayface, but the real Black Mask wouldn't rob an event like this. Banks are more his MO, as is gang warfare," Batman stated flatly, showing no hint of emotion. "Who's the real mastermind, and what's their plan?" "Wouldn't you like to know?" Clayface said as he morphed into his true form. "It's not like it matters, 'cause you're gonna get buried 6 feet under. Not before I have some fun, of course," Clayface said cunningly as his hand morphed into a mace and swung at Batman. Batman tried to dodge the blow but couldn't move. Looking down, he realized and mumbled and cussed himself out under his breath, realizing that he forgot that Clayface had the ability to be able to split his consciousness. The thug that Batman had booted in the chest was actually part of Clayface and was now holding his legs down. Clayface hit Batman with enough force to be able to knock him through a wall. Batman tried to regain his composure, being a little off balance from the blow. Clayface's hand morphed into a two-sided battle axe, and Batman was barely able to dodge out of the way. As Clayface struck at him again and again, each time Batman nearly dodging the blow. Thinking carefully and not wanting this fight to be prolonged any longer before somebody got seriously hurt, Batman saw no other alternative way to try to contain Clayface and charged at him. "Wow, Batman, I never knew you had a death wish." Clayface could not finish his sentence as Batman caught him with a left hook, knocking part of his lumpy face off. Clayface then grabbed the Dark Knight in one of his oven-mitt-sized hands and began squeezing the Dark Knight as if he was no more than a child's plaything. "What's the matter, Bats? Too much pressure for you?" Clayface mused as his face reformed. "It's sad that it has to end like this, Batman. It's been a lot of fun, but now it's time to..." Shh! Clayface stopped as a loud hiss and crack cut him off. And in horror, Clayface felt his lumpy body begin to stiffen. And before he could even move, Batman then took the opportunity to be able to release himself from Clayface's grip and kick-flipped out of the way, right as the instant cryo pill that Batman had secretly kept in his hand when he punched Clayface in the face had instantly reacted to the temperature change and thus froze Clayface where he stood. Gotham PD then swarmed Clayface and called for a transport unit and tried to keep him on ice so that way he could be easily transported. "That was tense, Batman, but why gamble that you wouldn't die before that capsule broke inside of Clayface?" Gordon asked. because I wanted him to think I let my guard down, Batman said plainly, not even looking at Gordon, but at Clayface. This was a diversion. Something big is happening, Jim, Batman said, his eyes narrowing. I don't like it. At that moment, a police radio broadcasted a hostage situation at Gotham Memorial. The culprit was a lone sniper who had already killed 10 people that tried to escape. Batman didn't even have to guess. He knew who the culprit was before the broadcast even ended, and he was already in the Batmobile. Deadshot. Chapter 2. Meanwhile, on a rooftop, 120 yards away from Gotham Memorial, Deadshot was staring through the scope of his sniper rifle, grinning with joy over how easy the targets were. This is fun. I wonder how the Dark Knight will do this. Rescue the hostages, or stop me, because if he saves the hostages, then he won't be able to save them all. But if he tries to stop me, then the hostages will still suffer a much grimmer fate, Deadshot mused, holding a detonator switch in his hand. Just then a batarang shot out of the darkness and knocked the electrical switch out of Deadshot's hand. Just as I planned, Batman, you now have 30 seconds to save all of the hostages. Can you do it? Deadshot said mockingly. I think that a world-class assassin like you would pay more attention to targets, Batman said. Deadshot looked at Batman confused and then saw where the detonator switch landed, and mumbled under his breath in shocked embarrassment for not paying attention. He got so ahead of himself that he failed to follow the trajectory of the batarang as it had pinned the detonation switch where it stood. No matter, Deadshot thought to himself, as his wrist-mounted SMG popped out, and he started firing at Batman, but it was too late. The moment Deadshot fired at him, the bullet went right through the side. Each of the bullets went through the side of Batman's cape, and the Dark Knight's foot connected straight with Deadshot's face. Knocking him down, he tried to counter with his other wrist-mounted SMG, only for Batman to block him and then slice the gun in half with the side blades on his forearm gauntlets. Batman then with nearly one arm